Good evening. My name is Brian Otot, and I'm joined again tonight with our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Eric Hofstetter.
Good evening. Good evening.
And this is our second community conversation regarding elementary boundary realignment. And I know many of you have joined us probably for the elementary and the middle, and I just want to let you know that tonight we are going to be reviewing some of the material from our last meeting, and that's just to make sure that everyone joining us tonight has some idea of where we've been and where we're going. And of course, our topic of conversation tonight is we are going to bring forth options for boundary realignment areas. And ultimately, I want to thank Eric and our team for all of their work. But the one way that y'all can interact with us is to go to slido.com, SLIDO.com, and enter meeting C382 and select polls. And as you know, there's already a poll question there for you tonight, and that, what school does your child attend? And again, giving us that type of information just allows us to know what groups we're talking with, what kind of participation we're getting from our community with these meetings. So again, please just let us know where you're from so far already. We have 12 people who've joined us, and it looks like it's kind of a split between Abney, Shelton, and some of our folks from Russom Elementary School. So thank you for joining us. Please continue to put your responses in there. Also know that there's additional ways you can respond to us within Slido. So please, thank you for joining us and appreciate all that you've done to provide us feedback as we go through this process. Also, I want to remind you that all documents are available at www.paulding.k12.ga.us/planning for the future. And as a matter of fact, tonight's PowerPoint is already available on that website. If you go to our homepage right now and you look in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a tile for planning for the future. You can click that and go right there to kind of get an overview of what we're doing tonight. Also, as always, you can email us at planning-for-the-future@paulding.k12.ga.us. We do get emails in, and please know that we read each and every one of those emails that come into that portal. And I know our response is generally thank you for your feedback, but I would like to sincerely thank you for that feedback and know that we read everything that comes into us and, of course, is incorporated to any final recommendations we ultimately have to make. So, as part of a review, I'd like to thank our communications and our technology department for giving us this venue to share information with you, and we hope it's effective for you. But one of the things our communication department did was put a video together that just basically shows kind of an overview of where we are right now. So at this point, we're going to give you about a 4-minute video, just kind of gives a great overview of where we've been and where we're going.
The school district's Education Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or ESPLOST, has provided funding for a wide range of projects to improve our schools over the years, including curricular materials, technology hardware, and new construction. In 2019, the school district held a series of community conversations giving stakeholders an opportunity to provide input on the challenge of enrollment growth. By a wide margin, stakeholders chose constructing new schools and new classrooms as their preferred option to address overcrowding in schools. A short time later, the school district held a referendum to renew ESPLOST to continue adding new classrooms in areas where the need is greatest. In November 2019, Paulding County taxpayers overwhelmingly approved the 5-year extension of ESPLOST. 2 projects now nearing completion are a 16-classroom addition at Russom Elementary School and a 22-classroom addition at Moses Middle School, both in the northeast quadrant of Paulding County. The northeast quadrant of Paulding is where the county is experiencing the fastest rate of growth as new construction continues to bring new family housing in neighborhoods. This new development means more and more families will be moving to our county, and in turn, more and more students will be attending Paulding schools. For those who live in northeast Paulding, bulldozers turned earth and new houses under construction are a familiar sight. Multiple developments are in progress right now, and they will add many hundreds of new homes to our community. And there are more developments that have been approved or are in the planning stage. Growth projections show that several schools already are exceeding their planned capacities or will be exceeding capacity in the next few years. Those schools include Abney Elementary School, Shelton Elementary School, and McClure Middle School. The classroom addition at Russom Elementary School will help relieve overcrowding at Abney and Shelton, and the classroom addition at Moses Middle School will help relieve overcrowding at McClure. The issue now is which students will fill those new classrooms. At those 2019 community conversations, it was not surprising that stakeholders cited students changing schools as the most concerning side effect of fixing overcrowding. But they also acknowledged that adjusting attendance boundaries is the most effective way to balance enrollments among schools, and it is the surest way to relieve overcrowded conditions, keep class sizes manageable, and provide a comfortable learning environment for all students. As the Russom and Moses classroom additions near completion in time for the 2021-2022 school year, the school district is conducting an attendance boundary review with the aim of shifting a portion of students from the Abney and Shelton Elementary School attendance zones to the Russom Elementary School attendance zone, and from the McClure Middle School attendance zone to the Moses Middle School attendance zone. Your voice will be an important part of this discussion, and we appreciate that you have decided to participate in tonight's community conversation. This event will be the first step before the school district begins drafting specific options. Once those plans are drafted, you will again have an opportunity to provide input before any final decisions are made. As always, we appreciate your support for strong schools and quality education, and we look forward to the conversation ahead.
Okay, well, thanks for coming back with us tonight. And right now it looks like we have 44 who've shared with us on Slido. We have 59% of our participants are from Shelton, 34% from Abney, and about 10% from Russom. So if you're out there, please make sure you log into Slido. Slido will remain open for 1 hour after the broadcast tonight, and that'll allow you to put any comments or anything else that you have. So please, again, log in, let us know where you're coming from, but also this is your portal to give us direct feedback during the meeting tonight. So I want to talk a little bit about the webpage before we get to attendance boundaries. The webpage is just a great resource for everyone. Everything we put out regarding the realignment process can be found on that Planning for the Future website. So if you haven't already, you can find the video, the results of our community conversations, how you responded on Slido, as well as your comments. There's maps, as well as a really pretty detailed FAQ section that is totally based on the questions you asked us in our first Planning for the Future meeting community conversation. So please make sure you check that out. We update it with everything that we've done, and it's a great resource. So here's the review part. Mr. Hofstadter, last time we talked about the general principles, the guiding principles of realignment. So will you take a minute just to review those again real quick?
Absolutely. And as you can see on your slide as you zoom in, and as shared prior, our staff utilizes these guiding principles throughout the review process, and we request for you to once again use these guiding principles to assist you in organizing your commentary and feedback from tonight's community conversation. Now let's just quickly review the guiding principles. 1, we prioritize equitable access to high-quality instruction for all children. We evaluate through a district-wide perspective by considering individual school capacities and student population projections. We minimize disruption to the greatest number of students and comply with board policy JBCCA and board regulation JBCCA-R along with all state and federal regulations. Now, in support of compliance, board policy JBCCA and its supporting regulation outline specific actions the district must comply with as options are developed.
Right. So in our first meeting, we asked which of the guiding principles were really most important to the community. And as you can see, the results from our last meeting, prioritizing equitable access to high-quality instruction for children, as well as minimizing disruption to the greatest number of students, were seen as those 2 priority areas, and also evaluating through a district-wide perspective by considering individual school capacities and population projections to alleviate overcrowding and balancing enrollments was also in that really those top quartile of responses. So we reviewed our guiding principles. Will you now talk a little bit about those secondary criteria?
Absolutely. And again, as the guiding principles provide the framework, the criteria help us zone in and how to frame our commentary and also look at those points that are very important when proposing and drawing potential lines. So again, the district staff uses several criteria to evaluate the potential options. And again, I want to remind everybody that your commentary and feedback in the context of these criteria were strongly considered as we developed proposed boundary adjustments. And again, we're asking you to use these criteria to frame your commentary regarding the options that will be presented tonight. Okay? So now let's review those criteria for our viewers who may be joining us for the first time. 1, geographic proximity. And again, this is the distance traveled using available routes of all transportation. 2, instructional capacity, which is the number of students who can be accommodated at the school, including the number of classrooms and resource rooms needed for art, music, labs, English to speakers of other languages, special education, and gifted programs, among all other great programs here in the Paulding County School District. And then 3rd is our projected enrollment, which is the number of students assigned to a school, including the future projected enrollment. And here I'd like to thank, once again, our partnership with the Paulding County Planning and Zoning Department, who provides residential and commercial building data and permit data that are especially important when developing these enrollment forecast models. Now, as we know, when primary criteria indicate more than one option, which is usually the case, then options are evaluated utilizing, but not limited to, the following secondary criteria. And here we have safety and traffic patterns, which again, all those factors impacting the accessibility of the school from all portions of the attendance zone, including travel time, traffic flow in the area, and safe operation of school buses and other safety considerations. Previous redistricting, and again, the school system seeks to avoid frequent rezoning of subdivisions and neighborhoods if facility sizes and geographic distribution of the student populations allow. And again, I want to tell people, or remind everyone, that this can be very challenging during periods of high growth in specific geographic locations, such as the area we are focused here during this review. Another secondary criteria is the balancing of special programs. And special programs are those serving children with special needs that require use of additional space over and above a regular classroom. And important to note here that where possible, the school system avoids setting attendance zones that would place a disproportionate number of special programs at one school. School feeder alignment, again, where possible, consideration is given to the alignment of elementary, middle, and high school attendance boundaries. And 5, intact neighborhoods. And again, where possible, consideration to assign entire geographic neighborhoods, subdivisions, or other traditional locations to one attendance zone. Now here, as a general rule, the larger the neighborhood or subdivision with a larger amount of school-age children, the more challenging it becomes to keep these neighborhoods or subdivisions intact. And then lastly is efficient and economical operations. And these are all the factors that contribute and promote fiscal responsibility to the district's overall operation. So again, we ask that you consider these criteria when developing your feedback and commentary from tonight's community conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. And in our last meeting, we asked the stakeholders that were present with us of the criteria, what were most important to you. And as you can see, the one that was a priority was keeping neighborhoods intact, right, followed by school feeder pattern alignment, and safety and traffic patterns were those top 3. So again, your participation through Slido helped us really look at what the community sees as a priority in terms of next steps for the district. So thank you for that feedback. And again, those help us frame our deliberations and process as we go through. Okay. So now I think we're going to talk a little bit about school choice. I just throw this up here again. This information can be found on our website because we are frequently asked, are school choice options available when redistricting occurs? And the answer to that is yes. The 2 main criteria I want to remind you of tonight are 1, that is when space is available, and 2, that any choice option is accompanied by you have to provide transportation for your child. Bus service is not available through any of our choice options and is not in what we call the request to remain process. And the other piece is it's prioritized by grade level, starting at 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, giving those students who have been there longer a priority status. But again, that can all be found not only in our board policy manual, but also on the Planning for the Future webpage if you'd like to take a better look at that. So we went over school choice. We reviewed last meeting.
That's right.
Eric, will you talk a little bit about the Russom addition?
Absolutely. And the first thing I want to do is thank the voters and the board for passing the 2019 East Plus referendum,
Absolutely.
because that is so important to the ability for the school system to construct additions.
Yes.
Do you want to say a few words more
Yeah,
about
I would
that?
just like to thank our community. You know, we had a great response in our SPLOST vote, you know, having 72% approval. We're not able to do projects like this, the new middle school that will be coming on, or anything, without your support of those initiatives. So I would once again like to thank our community and our voters for supporting SPLOST 6.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get down to it here. Let's talk a little bit about the Russom addition that we're currently constructing. So the new addition features several energy management devices to include LED lighting and other building automation. Along with several general purpose classrooms, the new addition is also highlighted with 2 integrated STEAM labs. And here, STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. And it also contains a fully equipped computer lab, as well as an administrative office. And furthermore, the addition is connected to the existing school building with an enclosed corridor to provide additional safety for our staff and students.
Right. And just to update our community on progress of that build, we know that that addition will be complete prior to actually the end of this school year. So right now, we're well online
Yes, sir.
for completion.
We're well on track to have everything. Furniture's ordered. We're finishing the final touches. It's going to be a beautiful building.
it
We're looking forward
absolutely
to
is, yeah.
all the great learning that will occur here.
Okay, so now we get to the part of the meeting that everyone's joined us
Okay.
for. Eric, if you'd walk them through projections, and then we're also going to go through each of the options that we'll share with our community tonight.
Absolutely,
So start
absolutely.
with current projections.
Okay, and we showed this chart in the first meeting, so we just want to review it real quick. Again, our focus area tonight is centered on these elementary school attendance zones. All right, with Abney Elementary School, it's already over capacity, and we know it's a site that cannot accommodate any additional construction. And Shelton Elementary is already at capacity, and there's expectation for some additional growth. It was important for the district to construct additional space in the area. In collaboration with County Planning and Zoning and assessment of our current school facilities, it became apparent to construct additional classroom space at Russom Elementary School. Russom has the available land and required core areas to construct an additional 16 classrooms, which increases the overall capacity from 875 students to 1,125 students, as you can see on the chart here, thus providing potential enrollment balancing for the Abney and Shelton school attendance zones, as well as accommodating growth within its own current attendance zone based on our current projections.
And as we started this entire process from the presentation we gave our board in November through where we are here today, really the goal of this process has been to balance enrollments at these 3 schools.
That's correct.
So know that that was the priority as we move forward. And that being said, Mr. Hofstadter, do you want to go ahead and start
Let's get to
looking
it.
at the zones that we're talking about tonight?
Okay, so let's get to it here. So here's our attendance boundary options. And again, as we begin to present the boundary options, and as we zoom in, you might be able to see a little bit more there. Okay, I'd like to share that staff give sincere consideration to the commentary we received in development of these attendance boundary options. And again, we look forward to your Slido comments and feedback from tonight. Now, to help orient our viewers to the geographic area we are referring to, this map zooms in on our focus area, which includes the current Abney Elementary, Shelton Elementary, and Russom Elementary School attendance zones. This particular map also identifies many of the subdivisions currently constructed or in planning to help our viewers understand the nature of how the proposed lines were drawn. Now, to help categorize your commentary and feedback, each zone has been identified as option A, A.1, B, or C. And then it is important to note that each option is independent of the others, but can be grouped as well.
Right.
Okay. So let's go right to option A.1. So option A1 is located on the western portion of and adjacent to the current Russom Elementary School attendance zone and to the north side of the Seven Hills Connector. Now, the vast majority of this option encompasses the Wildbrook subdivision that is currently under construction. This option also includes the neighborhood of Cadell's Place, as well as all other properties within the proposed lines and shaded area. Now, this option is being considered as an administrative realignment from Shelton Elementary to Russom Elementary, as there are currently no elementary age students living in this zone. However, with houses currently under construction, forecasting is taking into consideration the additional future enrollment of about 52 students.
Yeah, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about that a little bit, Eric. As we approach this realignment process, we have worked with planning and zoning. We have a good idea of where developments are coming in. So we had to take that into account. If we hadn't included an area like that, without this administrative realignment, year down the line, those students, of course,
That's
will end
correct.
up at Shelton. So we did look at areas, and again, administratively, where we could do this, where at this point right now, there's no impact to students.
correct.
But in the next year, we will be receiving students, and they'll be going to Russom.
That's correct.
So if you looked at the video there, as we were watching the nice flyby with the drone, that was actually that subdivision we're talking about right now.
Okay. That's great points, thank you. All right, so that's option 8.1. So let's now focus on to option A. And option A is located on the northeastern area of the current Shelton attendance zone and proposes that this zone be realigned from Shelton Elementary to Russom Elementary. And as you zoom in further to option A, you will see that the zone includes the properties along the area of Rutledge Road and the eastern portion of Cedar Crest Road to the county line. Option A includes, but is not limited to, the neighborhoods of the Governor's Town Club, Alatoona Heights, Cedar Crest Farms, and Cedar Crest Plantation, as well as all other properties within the proposed lines and shaded area. Now, our enrollment forecast is that option A will provide 27 elementary age students with the possibility of additional students from potential growth in that area that's being discussed.
And,
No-
and
no plans.
and I'd like to point out that as we reviewed the results of our Slido from our last meeting, and as you saw tonight, keeping communities intact was a big piece of that.
Absolutely.
So both 8.1 and A are both initiatives that are keeping entire neighborhoods intact. So
That is correct.
you want to go ahead and go forward with B?
Absolutely.
Or, I'm
Well,
sorry,
let's,
Review
yeah.
A.
So let's just do a quick review on A and A+1, because A1 currently doesn't have any students, and we know A has at least 27. So this chart here does not include any future growth from build-out. It's just what we currently know as of today. And you can see how it impacts enrollment all the way out to the 23-24 school year, which is indicated right here in the green column. Okay. So that's A and A1.
Yeah. And for those of you who drive by Development A1 every day like I do, know that this is a rapidly developing area, and we're anticipating that flow to come on in, and we need to plan for it in
That's
advance.
correct. That's right. And it's, in fairness to the folks living there, they know what school they're
Right.
going to as well. Yeah. All right, so let's move on now to option B. And, all right, so option B is located on the southeast portion of the current Shelton Elementary attendance zone and adjacent to the current Russom Elementary School attendance zone, and proposes that this zone also be realigned from Shelton Elementary to Russom Elementary. And as you focus in more on option B, you will see that the zone includes the properties along the eastern portion of Cedar Crest Road to Dallas Ackworth Highway. Option B includes, but is not limited to, the neighborhoods of Traditions at Cedar Crest, Oak Crest, Burnt Hickory Meadows, Alexandria Place, Oak Hills, Crossroad Farms, the Gates at Amber Hill, Wyatt Ridge, as well as all other properties within the proposed lines and shaded area. Now, our enrollment forecast is that option B will currently provide 58 elementary age students with an additional 60-plus students during build-out. And most of that build-out is going to come from right here on the screen with the red arrow in the development that's currently under construction called Traditions at Cedar Crest, which some people may refer to as the old YMCA fields.
That's where my kids used to go to summer
There
camp.
you go.
But again, that's looking what's coming in the future days as well as what's there currently, and making certain that we're taking those into account as we move forward.
Okay, so just a quick review for option B. Again, does not impact Abney at this time, but it's an additional 58 students from Shelton to Russom. And again, you can see the enrollment impacts off to the right of your screen for next year and out to the 23-24 school year. Okay. So let's now just take a quick review with build-out and the potential growth of all three of those options, A, A.1, and B. And this chart here basically shows that approximately, well, at least 197 students from Shelton will then be realigned or rezoned to the Russom Elementary School. And again, you can see that chart out to 23 to 24 school year. Okay. And just a quick look on the map, you can see A, A1, and B, and how that geographically aligns with the current zones, and along with the Russom, and makes a contiguous pattern. Okay. All right, so now let's shift a little bit to how this relieves Abney. So option C, and again, this is just how do we categorize so people understand what we're talking about. Option C is located on the northern portion of the current Abney Elementary School zone and adjacent to the southern portion of the Shelton Elementary attendance zone, and proposes this area be realigned from Abney Elementary to Shelton Elementary. And as you look further in there, you will see that the zone includes the properties along the southern portion of Seven Hills Boulevard. Option B includes, but is not limited to, the neighborhoods of Pine Ridge Estates, Wild Timber, and the remaining neighborhood of Double Branches at Seven Hills that is not currently zoned to Shelton Elementary, as well as all other properties within the proposed lines and shaded area. Now, our enrollment forecast is that option C will provide 148 elementary age students with an additional 13 or so, maybe a little bit more, during build-out. And that would be going now from Abney to Shelton.
Yeah, and we try to remain conservative with our build-out numbers, but again, that Wildwood development is still actively building homes, and we'll continue to monitor it as it grows.
That's correct. So just a quick wrap-up now of how option C affects, and here you can see we know at least 148 students. Again, this does not take into build-out, but 148 students from Abney to Shelton, and then goes ahead and tries to keep those neighborhoods intact as well, all going to one zone. Okay. So if we look at all the proposed realignments on this chart here, you can see how, and again, this is a summary, okay? It's a visual of how the entire proposed realignments will impact the three school attendance zones. So let's first start here with C. And what you have is C from Abney up to Shelton, and then you have A, A1, and B moving from Shelton to Russom. Okay, we'll just let that look there for just a second. And again, we will post a searchable database on the website, within a few days, of all the proposed addresses within each zone to assist our residents at verifying if your residence actually is located in one of those specific zones.
Again, wanting to provide as much information to the community as we can about this process, and appreciate all the work of those involved.
Okay.
So again, I don't know if I think we already went through this, Eric.
No, this is the new visual here. This is the build out now, again, the
Okay.
tables. And again, it's now that we see how the geographic realignment works, here's how the actual impact of forecasting is determined. So 161 students from Abney would then go to Shelton, 197 out of Shelton. So this leaves you basically a loss or a decrease of 161 students out of Abney, bringing their enrollment impact down for next year and out to 23-24 school year at this point. A net decrease of 36 students from Shelton, and then an increase of 197 students to Russom Elementary School. And as you can see here on the right with these columns, how that impacts and helps balance out and also provides some room to grow. And then this chart here again is a nice visual, kind of a key takeaway. Again, using the data on the previous charts, and this graphic here is designed to help our viewer understand the impact on projected enrollment at all three schools using the options that are here proposed. So as seen here, if no action is taken, Abney stays and may continue to grow up into the red zone, or getting close to that critically overcrowded, which we are attempting to avoid. Okay? And again, Russom stays way down in the green. And by using all options, A, A1, B, and C, you can see how Abney then finds some relief back down into the green, Shelton in the same, and brings the Russom with the addition up here, and keeps everyone in that green, and also some room to grow into the yellow for the next foreseeable future in our forecast enrollment pattern. Okay.
All right. Well, again, we wanted to provide some graphics for you to, again, demonstrate how we're trying to move to that balancing of enrollments within this area. And remember, a great way for you to provide feedback is through Slido. Slido will be open for 1 hour after our meeting tonight. And one of the questions that gives you an opportunity to provide feedback is the one that's there in the poll section now. In the context of the guiding principles and criteria, what do you see are the strengths and weaknesses of the options provided tonight? And it's a way for you to give us feedback. And again, we take that feedback and it just helps us do a better job in what is a very difficult process for all involved. So I would really encourage you to go into Slido and complete that, because that's immediate data for us that can help us move forward. The other thing that we'd really like to know from you is, of course, the pandemic has caused us to look at things very differently as a district. And that is, how would, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the information presentation of this attendance boundary review community conversation? Our goal all along has been to try to provide as much information in a format that is convenient to our parents and still allows them feedback during what are very non-traditional times for us. So please, let us know if this is a vehicle that is effective for you. Are we communicating in an effective manner? Is very important for us as we move forward. So please give us those responses. So go into Slido. It's open for an hour after this meeting. And now let's look at our next steps again. Of course, we started back in November where we presented to our board the overview, much of which you've seen tonight, and the entire presentation, the board, is on the Planning for the Future website. We moved into December and we gave a communication plan to our board, which included 3 community conversations. We had our first in January. This is our second in February, and we're going to be coming back to you in March with what we see as our final recommendation for the elementary realignment process. So please make sure you give us that feedback. Our ultimate goal is to make a final recommendation to our Board of Education in April. So please know we're following along with that timeline. Right now it appears that we'll probably do a simultaneous elementary and middle school meeting in March, so that since so much of this community is wrapped up in this and are impacted possibly at the elementary and middle school level, we'll bring those two together. So again, rate tonight's conversation, give us information and feedback, and just know that we recognize that this process is at times a difficult one, but know that we appreciate your feedback and support as we move to continue planning for the future here in Paulding. So Mr. Hofstetter, thank you tonight.
Thank you.
I'd again like to thank our technology and communications departments for their support, and I'd like to thank all of you who joined us tonight, and we hope you have a great evening. Thank you.